and
Oddball.
Hey Oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 160. You know what I just realized? I forgot the birthday of this podcast. Oops. I'm not surprised though. I was on vacation and I wasn't even really thinking about it, if I'm going to be completely honest. But it was on July 5th, the official start of spooky season. So happy 3 years to this podcast. And I just felt like I needed to say something because I haven't forgotten that yet. But I guess there's a first time for everything. So anyhow, we are going to dive back into the psychic book and figure out more of what your psychic talents could be. So here we go. It's lesson time. Today's psychic lesson is other psychic talents. When you were a child, did you have a natural talent for doing something? Did anyone ever remark that a particular ability of yours seemed developed far beyond your age? Did it seem as if you knew how to do something without anyone else showing you? Did you have a special athletic talent? Your psychic talents may go beyond sight and hearing, although these are more common senses for psychic power or recollection. Some of you may remember being able to sense energy fields or auras, or certain smells. And some of you may have at times felt unexplained emotions that have no real-life explanations. Did you draw or paint at an early age? If so, were these scenes from your childhood, or did they just seem to be inspired by something you had never actually experienced in this lifetime? Did you have a musical talent? Were there music styles or certain compositions that affected you in different ways? Do you remember hearing voices? Did you have a guide or an angel who talked to you through bad times and gave you encouragement? Or did the voice seem to come from an object you held dear? A doll, a baby blanket, or even your favorite chair? So I find this one interesting because you could really take this any way that you feel, it relates to you. Like, for instance, I could go down the path of the music stuff where my family has just this really musical history where everybody is just kind of talented in their own way, whether it's singing or playing an instrument or what have you. Very musical. I used to do dance when I was younger, and I would always get so mad when people were off beat. That's like my thing is I love a beat. And I like to stay on beat, but also there's just music that just like really hits deep. So I don't know. That could just be a musically talented family type of thing. Also, a weird little quirk of mine is I can smell anything and quite literally everything. And it's not a great thing. It's an okay thing, but it's not a great thing because I smell a lot of raunchy smells that a lot of people just are nose blind to or just they don't smell. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the psychic ability or just I have a dog nose. Basically, it's awful. So really, you could take this and interpret it how you want to. But the thing is like, what does it mean? If any of you have an idea of what any of this could mean, or if you have a weird dog nose or a musically talented family, or I don't know, even just like it said, hearing voices, or are you attached to an object? I mean, I'm here for it. I want to know. And let's go ahead and move on to stories.
This comes from RudiiTheFato on Reddit.
Hello, I'm 20 years old. I'm Brazilian, and since I couldn't find a Brazilian community to share my experiences with, I decided to post here. I apologize for any mistakes in the English version. It was translated by AI. Before I actually begin, I'd like to give you readers a bit of context. I was born into a family that wasn't very religious. However, during my teenage years, my mother started connecting more deeply with God and the Bible. She never formally joined a religion, but from that point on, she became much more God-fearing. And like many of you, I ended up being influenced by that. I had to study the Bible, even though I didn't want to, but I did it to please her. And also because at the time, I believed it might be good for me. But as it turns out, I only studied the Bible to eventually realize I was an atheist. That period brought some inner turmoil. I kept asking God for a sign, something to help me hold on to the faith I once had. But as you might have guessed, that sign never came. Many years later, when I was about 19, I started dating a girl and ended up falling deeply in love with her. She was religious, but not in the way most people are used to. She followed a Brazilian religion called Umbanda, which is somewhat similar to Allan Kardec's Spiritism, just as a point of reference so you don't get too lost. In Umbanda, we incorporate spirits, and they speak through mediums. I was curious, and also wanted to feel closer to her, so I asked her to take me to the Gira. That's what we call the ritual gathering. I went, and guess what? I ended up falling in love with the religion. I felt completely at peace, like I was at home. I had chills, shivers down my spine, and this strange, totally indescribable feeling. In the end, the relationship didn't work out. It was a classic case of love bombing, but I stayed in the religion. Since then, I've grown a lot spiritually. I found out I'm a medium. I incorporate spirits. I can hear them, and I can feel their presence. And that's where my story begins. One morning, my mom left with my brother, and they were gone for a while. Since I didn't feel like going out, I decided to go back to sleep. Not long after, I felt a presence enter my room. The energy was incredibly heavy and dense, but I tried to rationalize it. It must be my mom coming in. Still lying there with my eyes closed, facing the door, I assumed that was the case. Whatever she wanted in my room, I was still too sleepy to care. So I turned the other way, still feeling that presence getting closer and closer. I stayed completely still until things got worse, and I realized that definitely wasn't my mom. I started to get scared when the presence stood at the foot of my bed and made a slight movement. Maybe its head? It felt like it was trying to look at my face, leaning in. Then it got even weirder. It placed what felt like a knee on the edge of my bed, and I could feel the mattress sink under the weight. At that point, I was terrified. The whole thing felt like it lasted forever. I started asking my spirit guides for help in my mind, still too afraid to open my eyes. But it kept getting worse. The thing felt like it was floating over me, and at some point, I even got the impression that it had a feminine presence. A few seconds later, it vanished. Later on, during a Jira, I asked the spirit who leads our house what that had been. She told me it was just my spirit guides paying me a visit, and that it's common since I'm going through spiritual development. And honestly, from then on, I've seen a lot of other things. My current girlfriend is also a medium, and she sees things too. So no, I'm not going crazy. Oh, this is wild, but I love it. I love that this person went from like, not a fan of the Bible, I guess I'm an atheist, to like, hey, I'm a medium. And I love that. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm not saying I'm against the Bible by any means, because like to each their own, right? I grew up in the church, blah, blah, blah. But like, I lean more towards like this kind of stuff than I do towards like the Bible. And so I find it fascinating when people have like a full story of them basically, I don't know, figuring out their spirituality. I don't know. I can't find the right words to say, but this is really cool, but also kind of terrifying because are we 100% sure that this was your spirit guide? Because that's so creepy. I feel like a spirit guide shouldn't do that shit. That's not okay. I mean, maybe my spirit guides know better and won't do that because that would freak me the fuck out. I don't know. I don't know how to get in touch with them and do all that. Maybe I need to check this out because that's pretty cool. But it kind of falls in line with the whole psychic book at the same time, sort of, because you're trying to find your inner psychic, and this person did. They found out they're a medium, and who knows what else they can do. So I find it really fascinating, and I'm curious to see if they can like talk to spirits in like haunted locations or just period. I just find this fascinating, and now I really want to know if this person's abilities have grown to where they can just full on talk to spirits, because that would be pretty cool. It might be a little terrifying at first, and it still could be terrifying because I don't think everybody has the same experience where like they can see the spirit. Sometimes they see like colors or like ideas of the spirit. Some people could full on see the spirit. This is the stuff that I'm into. I don't know. I just find it fascinating to be able to talk to spirits. And maybe that's just because I am an introvert. I'm an introvert at heart, and I'd rather talk to ghosts, I guess. I don't know. But anyhow, I'm curious as to what you guys think, and let's go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from an anonymous writer.
One day or night, I was playing with a silver crucifix that was my uncle's who passed away quite a few years ago. While playing with it, rubbing it on my fingers and biting it with my lips, it slipped from my grasp. I heard it hit the ground with a single ping. I was sitting on the couch and had tile flooring. I got up and looked for it all over the floor, moved the couch, and even looked in between the couch. I never found it. The flooring wasn't damaged, so there were no cracks it could have fallen through. I missed that cross due to the sentimental value more than anything. Does this have an explanation other than what atheists would call a logical one? Well, that's a little spooky. The only thing I can think of is like maybe it literally just disappeared into the spirit world. The only reason why I say that is because my mom has had things go missing in her room all the time. I don't know if it happens as much as it used to. I actually need to ask her, but she used to have makeup brushes go missing all the time. Or I think even the remote one time went missing, and basically they would go missing for like a couple weeks or even months. And then all of a sudden they would be like right in the middle of her bed that was perfectly made, just no explanation. So I don't know if maybe your uncle is like, no, we're not going to do that. Or, hey, I need that for a minute. Or I don't know, but maybe it will reappear. Hopefully. I really like this one though, because they have tile floor. So you would be able to hear it drop and then skid potentially if it hit the ground, which I'm assuming it took a pretty good dive just because, sitting on a couch that's a little off the ground, maybe good like 2-3 feet, which is enough for something to slide. But the only other thing that I can think of that's the logical one would be maybe it like shoved up underneath the couch. But see, that doesn't make sense to me either, because I'm assuming since it's a silver crucifix, since it's a silver crucifix, I'm assuming that it has some weight to it. So I don't see it like bouncing up dramatically enough to like jam itself into the couch. I would have to see the couch, how low it is to the ground, flip the couch over. I don't know. That would be like literally the only logical explanation that's still illogical to me. Like, I don't know. The only one that I come up with is paranormal, and that it just literally disappeared. And I'm hoping that it turns back up if it hasn't already, because losing something as sentimental value, that actually does hurt. So I could totally understand wanting to have that back. But do you guys have any idea of where this crucifix could have gone? Let me know. Do you have a story like either story today or any paranormal story in general? Head on over to my website, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, it's an odd world after all. Oddballs, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you have any comments for this episode, comment below. Or head over to Instagram and comment on this episode's preview. To submit a story or for more information, go to itsanoddworldafterall.com.